later years. So in Greece, wherever you go, first of all you deal with monuments. Monuments everywhere. Prehistoric sites, palaces in Crete, settlements. And so Rhodes could not be out of that. The very first travel sources we say is Homer. The Homeric poems of the 8th century BC, when Homer was composing those poems into songs and singing them with his lyre. Historically, that figure is considered to be blind, but he was traveling and singing those, having composed them into songs, those poems. Iliad and Odyssey. And in Iliad, in the second book, is also recorded this island. A Mycenaean king named Tlepolemus, T-L-E-P-O-L-E-M-O-S, Tlepolemus. The E is epsilon for us. That's why we say lemos, le. It's epsilon, E. Tlepolemus, a Mycenaean king from the area of Mycenaean Argos, Peloponnesus, southern Greece, at that time was the ruler of this island. And with 9 ships, he sailed from this island to join the other Achaeans. He was an Achaean too. In Ugarit script, the Achaeans are given as Achiava. So Ugarit, I'm talking about area beyond Syria, in that part of around there. And I'm talking about the prehistoric times. 9 ships sailed from here to join the army and the fleet of the Achaeans outside Troy. The date of the Trojan War is around the year 1200 to 1184, 890, around there, for 10 years. Tlepolemus never returned to Rhodes, as many of the other kings, including Achilles and others too. So, this is prehistory. The sites that have been identified as prehistoric are many in this island. Only in the recent years, outside Lindos, excavated a number of graves of the Mycenaean period, the 14th century BC. Others in the Alissos and Camios. And we come to these 3 names now to tell you that these cities developed after the prehistory, the Mycenaean, let's say, world, the period that we call Helladic or Mycenaean, from 16th century BC to the 12th century BC. Around the 11th century, invasions from the northern Greek lands today. At that time, we call them Dorians. Ionians, Aeolians will settle in Greece and the Greek islands. The Dorians will reach after Crete, the island of Rhodes and the other Peloponnese islands, and settle here. The 9th century must be the beginning of the small settlements to develop gradually and become very important cities, known as city-states. Here to your left, a golf course, the only one in this island, the golf course of Rhodes, in Afandu village. The Afandu village is beyond these hills. I see the hills, new houses up there. The old settlement was by the sea. I'm talking about the ancient times. The new village with its name Afandu is beyond the hills, to be invisible, not to be seen from, the sea, where those years pirates, corsairs, were sailing up and down, looking for coastal settlements and cities, pillaging them, burning, taking slaves and gold. And I'm talking, of course, about after the 7th century AD. So the 8th century is marked by the Homeric poems. At the same time, there is something in the Greek history which is called colonization, the expansion of the Greek city-states in new areas, solving problems of demography and looking for new lands to develop. 90% of the new cities would be coastal cities, and the areas that they settled were the coast of Asia Minor, the straits going up to the Black Sea, a few along the African coast in Egypt and Syria, and one in Libya, present-day Libya. Kyrene in Libya is an ancient Greek city. It was a settlement from a group of people from Santorini Island, or Thera. And many more in Calabria and Lucania, south of Italy, and Sicily. Many. So this great, expansion, let's say, in other words, created, this, what you call today, the classical world, the miracle of Greece. So there's something that one has to look back to. In those 2 or 3 centuries before the classical period, the classical era. The new cities prospered greatly. They developed schools in philosophy, in astronomy, in mathematics, always in mind bearing something, that the motherland and the mother city was somewhere in a Greek island or in Greece, and the gifts were coming during the festivals. It was the beginning also of the Greek festivals, the ancient festivals, held in those great centers, as they developed gradually from the 8th century BC, 776, considered to be the very first, the beginning of the Olympic Games. And then the other centers, Delphi in mainland Greece, Isthmia and Nemea in Peloponnese, the Panathenaea in Athens, the Carnia or to Apollo Carnios in Sparta, and several others. But at the same time, dealing with Rhodes, here, 3 cities will develop as independent city-states, but they will create trade relations among themselves, and these 3 cities were Lindos, the one we'll be visiting soon, Ialissos, written with I-A-L-Y-S-S-O-S, Ialissos, Camiros, the third and the smallest, on the northwestern side, Ialissos and Camiros, but Camiros is approximately 45 kilometers from the city of Rhodes, 50 kilometers or so, 55 Lindos on this side, and only one major city on this part of the island, with much, more extensive land to all, but not that fertile as it, it was the other side of the island, and still is. So these 3 cities will develop at the same time as all the other city-states all over Greece, and including those new settlements I mentioned just a while ago. Miletos, to remind you a few, on the coast of Asia, or Turkey today. Ephesus, Pergamon, Iassos, Telmissos,